Hi everyone, this is Jenny Parks. Welcome to our webinar, Creating OER, an Introduction and Overview of Rebus. It is Tuesday, February 18th, 2020, and it's just a few minutes until the webinar starts. I wanted to make sure that anyone who needed some additional time setting up your technology had a chance to do so. And I am showing that we have 20 people logged on. That's great. Thank you. Don't see any hands raised yet, so I'm going to assume that the IT is working. Let's see. I'm trying to think if there are some additional things I can share with you today that will help get you warmed up for the webinar. You know, we're looking at Rebus today, which is a division of Pressbooks, and we'll learn more about that. But if you want to test out some of your IT, you can try to raise your hand. There's a little control for that. So I'll ask some questions. How many of you already use Pressbooks? Let's see if we can see. So I see one hand raised, two. All right. So
should also just clarify, we're not a division of Pressbooks.
Right.
We are, yeah. Pressbooks is a for-profit company run by Hugh McGuire, who is also the executive director of Rebus. We're in the same office, and we like each other, and we play well.
Cousins. Maybe of the same.
Sort of, but one's a charity and one's a nonprofit or a for-profit.
Well, that's important. That is important. Right.
Yeah.
My apologies. Okay, good. I'm seeing how the hand raising works. Nice. Okay. Ha, this even tells me when you're not looking at your screen. Ha ha ha. Naughty, naughty, y'all. All right. Okay. All right. Well, once again, making sure people know where they are. This is a MHEC webinar, Creating OER, an Introduction and Overview of Rebus. And it is 12:58. We will start at 1. Let's see. How many people do we have now? We have 27. Awesome. Let's see. What else was I going to ask people? If you want to try to navigate your control panel and just try some things out, I'll ask for some raised hands on how many of you are in a place where the temperature is above freezing today? That would not be me. Oh, I am jealous. Bunches of people. Well, good for you. I'm glad that you're in a place where it's above freezing. It's at least sunny today in Wisconsin, but no such luck, not above freezing. All right, trying to think if there's anything else. This is a new departure for us. I'm on camera, which most of you are used to hearing my voice, so I'm a little bit new to this. I have a backdrop here, which I'm sorry, it looks like a shower curtain. I'll be working on that. I didn't realize that till I started the camera, but it's a clean shower curtain, neat looking thing, so that's good. All right, I am showing 12:59 p.m. It's almost time for us to get started with the webinar. And again, if anyone needs anything, I invite you to look at the chat section. That's where you can send notes. And we do have a number of folks doing some IT support for you. So here we go. It's 1 o'clock. All right. Welcome. My name is Jenny Parks, and I work for the Midwestern Higher Education Compact as their Senior Director for Policy and Academic Initiatives. This webinar today is called Creating OER, an Introduction and Overview of Rebus. It is Tuesday, February 18th, 2020. It is 1 p.m. here in the Central Time Zone. So I wanted to let you all know that we will send you a recording of this webinar when it is finished. And attached to the email you received, there will also be slides from the webinar, as well as a handout that Leigh has prepared for us about Rebus. Please, if you do have questions during the webinar, use the chat box to submit them. During the webinar, if they are of a technical nature, we do have folks behind the scene doing a lot of work. We have Everett and Mary back at the MHEC offices in Minneapolis, and they are really good at these things, so they can help you out. And then in the end, you will receive a survey. Go ahead and fill that out so that we know how to serve your webinar needs better. So, all right, I am going to get started here. That's me. As I said, the moderator. I'll tell you a little bit more about MHEC's work with OER. As you all know, this all kind of got kick-started a year and a half ago in Chicago. We had a summit in November there where we brought together folks from all of the MHEC states so that we could begin to figure out a way to increase the capacity to implement OER in our 12 member states. And in the last year and a half, we've worked with all of those teams. Some of them have spun off and become their own entities, like in Kansas. They're now an official subcommittee of the Kansas Board of Regents, and our Michigan team will probably be becoming its own nonprofit entity this spring. So they've been doing a lot of work on those state action teams, and they are now working this year, most of them on state level convenings and working to coordinate all of the repositories in their states. We also had another convening. We had the Senior Leaders Open Education Seminar in December in Minneapolis, where we invited system and institutional leaders from across the MHEC states to come and get a different set of training for OER work in their institutions and in their states. And we are looking to scale those meetings to the rest of the states and do state level versions of them in 2020 and 2021. And then finally, we are working with the other 3 regional compacts to create some sort of national scaffold strategy support system to help bring together the many folks who are doing great work on OER. And we have a kickoff meeting there in March in Atlanta. Today's presenter is Leigh Kinch-Pedrosa. She is a Communications and Partnership Director at the Rebus Foundation. And I am now going to turn it over to Leigh, who is going to talk to us about Rebus.
Hi. Can everyone hear me okay?
Hi, yep. Leigh.
Yay. Okay, hi. So thank you for that introduction, Jenny, and I'm really excited to be here to talk about the Rebus Foundation and specifically our Textbook Success Program. So the Textbook Success Program is a professional development package for faculty, librarians, and other open stakeholders who are interested in creation or heavy adaptation of open textbooks. It's one part of a lot of what we do, but it is extremely effective, and I can't wait to tell you more about it. So just see. Don't seem to have control of the slides.
Everett or Mary, is one of you able to help us with this?
Yeah, so Leigh, have you tried clicking into the slides? Just like, yeah, okay. Jenny, the give keyboard mouse in the sharing
okay.
box.
So thank you. All right. So for those of you, here you go, Leigh.
Great.
See if that works. So those of you who have seen our webinars before know this is a new platform for us. So thank you for your patience. Leigh, go right ahead.
Thank you. So today I'm going to talk about a little bit about what the Rebus Foundation is, talk about the Textbook Success Program, talk about why you should participate if you're interested, go over the pricing model really quickly because it's simple, and then talk about some next steps. All right, can we pull up that poll, please? Great, so if you could all just take a minute to answer this poll. I'd love to know how much do you know about creating or heavily adapting open educational resources. Select one, not at all. some but not enough, but I'd like to know more, or I could teach my peers. And I would like to just give you a brief moment, and then Everett will jump back in and let me know when we've collected enough resources to move on. And we'll refer to this later.
All right, I think this is Everett, and I'm going to give you 10 more seconds if you'd like to get a final vote in. But I think this is your last call. All right, closing the poll.
Great, thank you. Let's wait.
Okay, this is where I think maybe the clicking into the actual PowerPoint as much as possible, Leigh,
Sure.
is going to work better.
Great. Okay, so the Rebus Foundation is a Canadian registered charity in Montreal, Quebec, which is kind of like the Canadian version of a 501c3 in the States. Rebus's mission is to support open publishing and scholarship, and we act as an advocate and a champion for new models of publishing and new technologies that support that. Again, we're not actually a subsidiary or a division of Pressbooks, but we do share an office with Pressbooks, and we do share an executive director. It's just the same person. And we like Pressbooks too. So if you like Pressbooks, that's awesome. But we do not mandate or require people to have or use Pressbooks in order to participate in any of the services that Rebus offers. So Rebus Community is part of Rebus Foundation. We have two initiatives. One is Rebus Community and one is Rebus Inc. Rebus Community is funded by the Hewlett Foundation. And it's funded by the Hewlett Foundation. It's an arm of Rebus concerned with open textbook creation and publication. If you're interested in our other initiative, I can tell you about that too at another time. Briefly, it is called Rebus Inc. It's supported by the Andrew Mellon Foundation. It is a web-based app in development designed to organize scholarly reading and note-taking, and it's very cool. And if you would like to know more, you can contact me. But today I'm here to talk about Rebus Community. So Community was founded in 2016 by Hugh McGuire. He then brought on my colleagues Zoe Wakehyde and Apurva Ashok, who both have a lot of experience in textbook creation and publication. Together, they worked with over 40 open textbooks, supporting them with project management and publishing expertise. As they worked with this community of creators, what we're calling the collaborative open textbook publishing model was formed. This model is the basis of everything we do, and it's documented in the Rebus Guide to Publishing Open Textbooks. I have a print copy here, but it's available on the internet for free, and you can get it through Pressbooks, you can get it online, and I can send out a link later on if you're interested. The guide is a step-by-step pathway to collaborating with peers on open textbook creation. It covers everything from project scoping to team building, peer review, marketing, accessibility concerns, post-release considerations, and more. The truly special thing about the guide is the so far part of the title. As we work with more projects and learn more about what faculty and librarians, administrators, and students need from publishing open textbooks, we'll add new community developed chapters. Right now, we're planning to add sections on diversity, equity, and inclusion, on adaptations, and on student impact assessment. The book is licensed CC BY and available in multiple web formats. I don't know how much anyone knows about licensing and the CC Creative Commons licensing, but CC BY essentially, if you don't already know, means that it is, you can do the 5 R's with it, and I'm going to try really hard to remember what the 5 R's are. You can remix, reuse, you can share it and mix it up and do anything you want with it for free. So besides the guide, we also offer an online discussion space at Rebus.Community, where teams can meet, they can troubleshoot problems, share calls for participation, and announce project updates. Our software is free and open source, and anyone can log on and create an open textbook project homepage that acts as a public-facing workspace for a open textbook project. And finally, we have the Textbook Success Program. And this is our most effective vehicle for sharing our creation expertise. This is the way that we see it. Just takes a second for it to change slides. Great. So over the years, we have seen that the best way for open textbook projects to succeed, and by succeed, I mean make it to the classroom, save students money, and improve the learning experience for the greatest number of students. The best way for them to succeed is through building a community support around projects. In the Rebus Textbook Success Program, we grouped together 10 teams from the same institution and from different institutions. Each team is working on creating or heavily adapting their own open textbooks. So within a cohort, you'll have 10 open textbooks working together to make 10 textbooks. The group meets regularly for 1 year. For the first 3 months, teams meet weekly online for an intensive course on collaborative open publishing. The course covers project scoping, marketing and communications, team building, recruiting contributors, accessibility and inclusive design, content creation, editing, peer review, formatting, post-release considerations, like adoptions. In the handout that you can see on the side there, it actually goes into more detail about the weekly breakdown of what we discuss in each one. So if you're interested in learning more about that, I can refer you to that, or you can ask me questions about it. So at the end of the, it also covers special topics requested by the team. So if by the end of it we discover that people do really want to learn more about licenses, for instance, we can tack on an additional week worth of information about licenses. So at the end of the 3 months, the teams continue to meet monthly with a Rebus facilitator and each other to discuss their progress. They troubleshoot problems and they celebrate successes. Participants build capacity to become OER leaders at their institutions, and they do this by doing the hands-on work of actually creating an open textbook themselves. And I think it's pretty great. So Everett, could we please pull back the poll? Not at all enough, but I'd like to know more. Cool. Some, but not enough. Yeah, so this is really interesting, and I'm finding that in all of the conversations that I have with people around the States, up in Canada and Europe, everybody is really focused on adoptions these days, and actually less so on what it means to create and adapt open textbooks. And we're finding a lot of people, even experienced people, who have created their open textbooks sort of taken by surprise as to how much work and the kinds of work that goes into creating open textbooks. And we also know that there is not a huge amount of funding available out there. So the Textbook Success Program is our answer to how to make that funding, or to ensure that that funding is efficiently used, by providing a pathway to OER creators. That means providing a pathway for OER creators so that they don't have to go back and do costly remediation. So it saves time and hopefully saves money. So we'll just move on from the poll then. Thank you. Right. Just wait for that slide to change. Sorry about that. All right. So here's why I, and more importantly, past participants, are excited about the Textbook Success Program. Firstly, the cross-institutional collaboration opportunity. By grouping projects together the way that we do, a mix of projects from the same institutions and from different institutions, we help foster cross-institutional bonds. Participants spend a year meeting regularly. They learn from each other's strengths, can lend support, share tips and resources, and brainstorm new ideas and solutions. So for instance, we're finding in this current cohort that's happening, we have a wide range of experiences with OER, We have some people from SUNY in there, we have some people from Virginia Tech in there, and they all come from different backgrounds. And one place where we're finding everybody comes together is when it comes to doing accessibility checks. When there's different disciplines require different needs when you're talking about formats. So it was very helpful to have all of these people from different experiences, from different disciplines coming together to lend a hand, just, you know, figuring out how to format logic symbols so that they could be accessible to a reader online. So it was really beneficial to have not just a Rebus facilitator in the room, but people from a diverse set of backgrounds in the room to contribute troubleshooting. With the support of the group and the structure of the course and check-ins, the creation of the projects happens remarkably quick. Open publishing is a relatively new option for many faculty and librarians, so guidance is necessary to ensure that the OER creation grants that are out there in the world are used effectively and efficiently. One of the things that we're finding is actually by the end of the 12 weeks, because it is so intensive, we're finding that people are actually starting to have manuscripts, not copy edited manuscripts, not edited manuscripts, but by the end of 12 weeks, or at least a few sample chapters to get them started. The idea being that in the first 12 weeks, we hammer in all of the information about creating open textbooks while you're creating a little bit, and then we revisit it later on in the year so that everyone can work at their own pace. However, we have seen that people are working remarkably quickly within the intensive part of the course. As participants work through the program, they learn how to implement the best practices. So for instance, accessibility, as I keep talking about. And they do so early in the publication process. And this familiarity with the best practices and the hands-on experience of creating an open textbook, coupled with the networking that goes on over the course, builds capacity for and not only future creation projects, but future OER leadership. So what we hope is that people can take this information back to their campuses and help other people at their campuses or even around the world. When the program is done, whether or not the textbook is released, support continues. This is more than a 12-week course. It's more than 9 months of check-ins. It's a community of peers. Everyone who works with us is an OER stakeholder in one way or another, and they care about open education. At least that is my read on it. And having everybody in the same place and being able to have this free discussion really creates a neat community around things. And that's, you know, where the software comes into play as well. So we do have this online discussion place where anybody, whether you're part of the textbook success program, whether you're just OER curious, whether you're deep in the project and working somewhere else, can still come, share ideas, share calls for participation, and troubleshoot problems together. So our guiding principle, we are making books to build community and building communities to make books. And that is true of everything we do, even when it comes down to the Rebus Guide to Publishing Open Textbooks so far. This book was created in collaboration with a community. We went out into the world and found experts on everything from editing and peer review, and we put it all together and we talked about what the needs were of the community, and we wrote this book that would be, and we're going to continue doing that. And the Textbook Success Program is one way of bringing more people into that community. Pricing, obviously. Oops. So the cost of the project is $3,500 per project. So if you have one project from your institution going through the Textbook Success Program, it is $3,500, and that is for the whole year. You also get premium support. So anytime you go into the Rebus community and you ask a question, you will get a response from someone at Rebus Community, probably a Portva because she's very good at that, within 2 business days. If you have 3 projects from your institution or from state system, we've done that as well for, what's the word? Consortia. If you have 3 projects together, it costs $3,000 for a project. So 3 projects costs $9,000, 4 projects cost $12,000, and so on and so forth. Per project, we expect 1 to 3 people per project. That could be a faculty, it could be a student, it could be a librarian, people who are actively working on the project. We also welcome 1 to 3 program leads per institution. That could be someone who's just in charge of OER services for the librarian who wants to come and learn more about open textbook publishing. If you are interested, you can get in touch with me. I'm Leigh at rebus.foundation, or you can go to rebus.community and talk to us there. So yeah, that's what I have to say. Are there any questions?
Well, thank you, Leigh. I know you and I have been talking, but it was good to hear the full presentation and learn about it. We'll give people a few minutes to think about some questions. I'll get some started. So it sounds like what's happening is that people are seeing this as I was really struck by how efficient it would be, because there are a lot of people trying to develop things on their own, on their campuses and their systems. But I mean, in some places they've got people who are really well versed in these things, but if you don't have a really good system, this is kind of a nice way to jumpstart doing things, where you get the instruction on the process as well as you get a product as well when you're done. So
Yeah.
that was something I thought was very interesting, because when we think about ways that people use their OER funding, it's usually to incentivize faculty to do some type of adoption, adaptation, et cetera. But this is yet another way that could be helpful.
We're also finding that some institutions that do have a lot of expertise, for instance, SUNY, are enjoying this program. We have 5 projects from SUNY in the first cohort, are enjoying this program because it really helps them streamline a bunch of different threads that are going on. Because I mean, OER, even those that are well versed in it, it's still a super young movement, and by weaving the threads together, and the fact that Rebus Community is really responsive to diverse experiences and different perspectives on things, it's really important to us that we don't say there's one way. There's a way that we understand and that we've seen work, but we want to be able to adapt even our own processes to the needs of others. Yeah.
Well, I know one of the other things that I think is, besides just that inclusive of way of interacting with the folks whom you're serving, it occurs to me that you pull together expertise in a way that, again, it might be difficult on a campus, especially if they don't have a comprehensive OER production system up and running on campus. I know that we talk a lot at MHEC about accessibility, and we might have an accessibility expert over here or there, but that's already something that you're working on building into this process. So I think that for me was very helpful, and that you get some additional instruction on things like licensing, because I know some of the research I've read recently has said that one of the main barriers that many faculty encounter, or well, that people encounter, is that faculty are worried about copyright. They're worried about licensing, and they're not always comfortable enough even with it to know what they can or can't do. So that in and of itself, I think, is a really, really important set of considerations. And again, something that you guys are offering with this service that's really helpful.
With licensing, we really do draw on the Creative Commons resources as well. So we understand that, we're not lawyers. Creative Commons has lawyers, but librarians aren't lawyers. Even scholarly communications and copyright lawyers aren't copyright librarians aren't lawyers. So we just try to provide the best resources available so that people can grapple with those big questions, like fair use, for instance, which it's just about reading case law at a certain point. I don't want to.
Actually, in my doctoral program, we had a whole section in our law course about fair use and all of those things. It's really important, and it's at least for those of us who don't dwell in it on a daily basis, it's a lot to lift at any given time, when what we want to do is make this textbook and help students. So it's good that there's some resources out there and you're pointing people to them. Let's see.
We also want to make a space where people can talk about their issues too, even if we don't have the answer to every single fair use question, for instance. We want to be able to have a space for people to discuss it with a group of peers who either have dealt with similar issues or can pull resources together to respond to those questions. Right.
Well, that's very that begins to speak to a question we have from someone. It says, do you provide training for peer reviewers or other community member roles?
So what we do, we provide training when it comes to the peer review. We're going to be talking specifically about how to organize around peer review. We talk a little bit about the different types of peer review that there are. So I mean, double blind versus single blind, and so on and so forth. We talk a lot about author-reviewer relations, which we find we had a lot of questions about how to manage bringing in peer review and putting it back out of them. So it's not specifically a module focused for one person who is doing peer review, but a lot of the material could be pulled from there to manage that part of it. We also are very interested in the ways that peer review can be reimagined. So for instance, what of traditional peer review is really important to keep for certain instances, what is less important, and then also treating each book project as its own book and with its own needs and its own goals with peer review. So when it comes to peer review, it's about facilitating peer review in a way that is responsive to the goals for us.
Sure, that makes sense. We have another question here. It said, I might have missed this, but does the Rebus Foundation fund the cost for institutions participating in the project? And I think I might have messed up something there, but just so we can, here I'm just gonna, institutions pay to participate in the fully supported project. And again, it's at $3,500 per textbook or, you know, per learning material product that you're developing. And if you're doing more than 3 at one time, that would be $3,000 per textbook. And I think you were saying, do you have some ideas of the ways that some of your participants are funded? Like, again, is it something that's coming from their institutions, from their systems, from their states? I don't know if you have access to any of that information, but I know people would probably love to know, like, where does the funding
I can give you anecdotal answers.
Okay.
So it's very different depending on where it's coming from. So for instance, we have in this coming one, I can tell you about the Idaho State Board of Education is funding a few projects altogether. And so that they've actually funded a fellowship program and worked Rebus's textbook success program into that. So they've paid for that and worked us into a greater fellowship program for OER creators. Okay. Others have had grants from their specific institutions to do this. Others have had outside grants. I think we've even had a few where we've done, we're working on a program where how do I say this? For underserved communities and making sure that we catch people who may not be able to pay for it, but it's really, really important that this resource gets in there. So that's not offered just yet, but it is something that we're working on to make sure that we are serving the greater amount of the greater pool of open textbooks available.
Sure. All right, good. Let's see. How does the licensing work for the products from the project?
So we ask for, Rebus's stance on licensing is that CC BY is the best and widest used license. However, we understand that certain communities may not be as open to CC BY. So we do accept projects that are CC BY, and what's the one we don't accept? CC BY ND, so no derivatives. So if you do want to have an OER, we do require that it doesn't have an ND at the end of it. Okay. But CC BY, CC NC, CC NC SA, those are all fine. If you're interested in learning more about Creative Commons licensing, just the Creative Commons website has awesome resources with very readable definitions of every license. So if you were a little bit skeptical about whether you wanted to license CC BY or CC BY SA or any of the others, that's a good place to start. We also don't require people to know exactly which license that they will have when they start the program. We just ask that it's not ND, no derivatives.
Okay, great. Do we have some more questions? Well, thank you all for being here today. Let's see, I believe we've got a few more slides here. Maybe we don't. Are we done? All right. We don't have any follow-up. Oh, yes, there we do. So for those of you who are probably familiar with the MHEC page on OER, we've got a lot of our webinars and our other resources will be there for you to take a look at. And if you have a recommendation for some updates or some different resources, please let me know. I do want to keep it up to date. And if you do have any more questions for MHEC, there I am. There's my contact information. Oops. Well, there we go. We'll leave it there. Thank you, Leigh. I'm excited about this opportunity because I do feel like OER is so important, but just people don't always know where to start or how to coordinate multiple voices and multiple actors. So this is a really important step forward.
Yeah, and if you're interested in just dipping a toe in, I really do encourage you to go to Rebus Community and look at the guide. It's free. There's no commitment to just finding out a little bit more about the publishing process. So I highly recommend that. And if you do have any more questions for me, you can see me at Leigh@rebus.foundation. And also in that handouts tab, I have a full document that describes the textbook success program that you can share with your institution.
Wonderful. And we do have that handout. Like I said, they'll go out after this, and we'll make sure that those links are part of what we send out as well. So if those are all the questions, then I'm going to say goodbye to everyone and thank you for logging in today. And as you do remember, fill out the survey. On the survey, we're asking what are some other types of webinars you would like to see associated with OER, and even some OER products that are out there, because I know a lot of folks don't even know what some of them look like or how they work. We're really interested in helping you learn what's out there that can be helpful to you. So thank you, everybody.